The film opens with a former detective named Joseph sitting down for an interview. He used to serve in Bernardino County, a region of about 2 million people and one of the most violent places in the country. Murders, robberies, gang activity. He has seen all of it. But there is one case he has never been able to shake, and that is the case he is here to talk about. It starts in 2010 at a housing complex called Alton. Police get a report about a foul smell coming from the home of the Sherry family. Officers go inside and find the entire family slaughtered in the most brutal way imaginable. Joseph immediately suspects a cult because strange symbols have been drawn in blood on the wall above the three bodies. The film then introduces Alexis, a female detective and Joseph's partner on the case. She says Joseph was the kind of man who never showed fear on the job. But at that crime scene, she could see it written all over his face. Because Joseph recognized those symbols. He had seen them before. So Joseph takes us back to where all of this actually began. The first case was in 1993. A sex worker named Sifa was found murdered, her body rotting and mutilated in a thicket of bushes. The killer had removed her genitals and her womb. Police traced her final movements and learned she had checked into a hotel with a man who hired her for the night. That is where Joseph got suspicious. A spontaneous killing inside a hotel room would leave obvious signs of a struggle. There were none. It was as if the victim had been hypnotized and offered no resistance at all, right up to the moment she was killed. The only lead was the hotel guest book, where the man had signed in under the name Albert Shiney. Obviously fake, and Albert is one of the most common names in America. The trail went cold. Then 1 year later, the case reopened in the worst possible way. An 82-year-old man named Griffey was killed inside his own apartment. He had been struck with an oxygen tank and stabbed with a box cutter. Joseph could not make sense of it. Griffey was an old man with severe asthma who could barely move, so why would anyone target him? And then came the detail that stunned everyone. Just like Sifa, Griffey was missing an eye. There was no motive, no pattern anyone could name, and once again, nothing at the scene. In 1995, a 12-year-old boy named Noah disappeared while walking home from school. Police searched for 3 months and finally found his body near a shallow drainage channel. Noah was half decomposed, and just like the victims before him, an organ had been taken. This time it was his liver. Inside one of Noah's school books, investigators found a single word written down, Caliban. When they looked into it, they learned the name was said to belong to a demon. 2 weeks later, the police received an anonymous letter. The killer was taunting them for failing to catch him since 1993. He wrote that he would be taking a short break and that he still needed 10 more victims. He signed the letter as Mr. Shiny, and at the bottom of the page he drew a strange triangle symbol. And then he vanished. For nearly 15 years, the killings stopped completely, until Joseph walked into that house in Alton in 2010 and saw the same triangle symbol painted in blood. This is Strange Harvest. As the team reconstructed the massacre, they learned the killer had slipped in through a bathroom window early in the morning. He tied every member of the family to a chair, taped their mouths shut, and positioned their hands as if they were praying. Then he slowly drained their blood with a box cutter, collecting it in a paint bucket until they died. Once they were dead, he calmly grabbed a ladder and used their blood to paint his ritual symbol. His planning was so meticulous that Joseph and his team could not find a single fingerprint or trace of DNA anywhere in that house. 3 days later, another letter arrived. The killer made it clear he was not going to stop until his plan was complete. Soon after, a woman named Malika reported finding a human head near the Paris Hill Garden, surrounded by ritual candles and a jar filled with leeches. The head was placed in the center of a satanic symbol. Police identified the victim as a young woman named Tamara, who had been living with her boyfriend near the garden. The killer had gotten in through a ventilation opening and taken the couple down with a powerful stun gun. Tamara's boyfriend tried to fight back and paid for it. His face was severely burned with a torch. He survived, and he told police that the masked man had spoken the name Caliban. The film cuts to that boyfriend, a man named Glenn, now permanently disfigured. Glenn explains that the killer had one goal, to collect victims in order to awaken the demon he worshipped. Glenn is convinced the man was being helped by dark magic, and that this is exactly why every police investigation kept failing. The only thing he can offer is a sketch of the mask the killer wore. But in the middle of the interview, Glenn suddenly starts bleeding. The damage to his head left him with blood vessels that rupture whenever he panics, and the sketch he manages to produce is barely more useful than a child's drawing. Then another body turns up. A Chinese immigrant named Dennis Zhao is found in an abandoned swimming pool swarming with thousands of leeches. Alexis is shaken by the sheer preparation involved. The killer had collected thousands of leeches just to end one life. The pool was lined with wire and broken glass, so Dennis could not climb out, and he slowly bled to death. The autopsy reveals something worse. His tongue had been pulled out so he could not scream for help. Finally, the police catch a break. A report comes in about a house where the occupant had been acting strangely. Joseph goes in and immediately spots a satanic symbol on the wall, so he calls in a full raid. But the house has been abandoned for a while. All they find are a few pieces of evidence and a rental agreement signed by Albert Shiney. Then Joseph finds a fingerprint on a pair of binoculars, and that fingerprint gives them the killer's real name, Leslie Sykes. But the name leads nowhere. Leslie Sykes has no criminal record, no employment history, no mobile banking, no phone number. He is a ghost on paper, so the police push his identity out to every media outlet they can, hoping the entire country will recognize him. The publicity works in a way. Alexis receives another letter. Leslie writes that the police will never stop him because his work is blessed by the demons he serves, entities he names as Adragor and Dragall. He also mentions that he still needs 5 more people. A month later, he takes one of them. A young woman named Victoria is filming a makeup tutorial on Facebook when the killer walks in and shoots her on camera.
I'm just obsessed with this brand lately, and for like kind of a smoky look with this one right here.
The mask he is wearing matches Glenn's sketch almost exactly. Leslie then uses her lipstick to draw his symbol on the wall and begins his ritual. But something goes wrong. The ritual fails, and Leslie collapses unconscious. When he comes to a few minutes later, he flees. Joseph works out why it failed. Victoria was still alive. The caliber of the weapon he used had simply been too small. Victoria is rushed to the hospital in critical condition and taken into surgery. She survives. For the first time, the police have a living victim. And then, a few days later, Victoria is suddenly pronounced dead. The CCTV footage shows exactly what happened. The killer came back to finish the job. He disguised himself as a nurse, walked into her room, and injected toilet cleaner into her IV line. The one survivor they had, and they could not protect her. Joseph, buried in guilt, asks to step away from the case for a while. Under heavy public criticism, the department offers a reward of $80,000 for information leading to the killer. It goes nowhere. Leslie is that invisible. Then a man named Jared comes forward. He went to high school with Leslie, and he says Leslie always kept to himself. But he remembers one strange conversation. Leslie told him about a red light that led him into a cave, and inside that cave he heard a whisper. The whisper told him to awaken an entity that would one day conquer the earth. Around the same time, police get a report about a dead pit bull. Alexis is almost impressed. The killer took down a 21-kilo pit bull with nothing but a box cutter. And that same night, a donut shop employee named Leo is working late. Leslie watches him through the window, then goes in and kills him with terrifying speed. By morning, Leo's body is found in the kitchen. The whole place torn apart, and his liver is gone. A security guard named Malik tells police he saw a man arrive in a sedan the night before. He assumed the guy just wanted donuts and thought nothing of it. Once again, there is no trace of how the killer got away. Joseph then explains the 15-year gap. Leslie had not stopped. He had been traveling the world, gathering knowledge to perfect his ritual. In 2003, he visited an antique book collector in Germany named Jonas and tried to buy a medieval book of spells. The book was rare and known to be cursed, so Jonas refused, even when Leslie offered $150,000. The next day, Jonas discovered the book had been stolen. Back in the present, a vlogger films himself finding a body in a playground. It is Malik, the security guard from the donut shop. His back has been torn open and his lungs are gone. Alexis recognizes it immediately. It matches the Blood Eagle, one of the cruelest executions ever performed by the ancient Vikings. Alexis goes back to Leslie's house to search for anything they missed. While the team hunts for leads, Joseph fixates on a telescope Leslie had been using. He keeps asking himself what exactly the killer was watching. An astronomy expert named Joshua gives them the answer. In just a few days, a phenomenon that only happens once every 800 years is about to occur. Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn will line up and form a triangle in the sky. The same triangle Leslie has been drawing since 1995. He has been waiting for this exact moment for his entire life. Meanwhile, Alexis finds a safe hidden behind a wall. Inside is a passport and a set of car keys with a tag from a public storage facility. The next morning, the police open Leslie's storage unit, and everything he has been doing is laid out in front of them. There is a ritual symbol on the floor, and the victim's organs preserved inside jars. There are pages of writings dedicated to a figure named Adragor, and a small monster statue that they believe represents the entity Leslie has been serving. Then another letter arrives. Leslie needs only one more victim, and he is going to use the alignment of the 3 planets to open the way for his master. The next night, an emergency call comes in from a family with a 3-month-old baby. By the time police arrive, the parents are dead and the infant is gone. That baby is the final sacrifice. Joseph refuses to fail again. Working from the position of the 3 planets, the team figures out where Leslie will perform the ritual. It is the exact same place where his crimes began back in 1993. The team races to the location and radios the update straight to Joseph. Then the transmission turns into chaos. One by one, the officers are cut down until every single one of them is dead. With the site clear, Leslie begins the ritual, and it starts working. A portal begins to open in the sky, right in the center of the triangle formed by the 3 planets. But before he can finish, police gunfire finally takes him down. Joseph arrives just in time to stop the ritual and save the baby. The nightmare is over, but the film has a few more turns left. During the autopsy, the killer's face is suddenly covered in leeches that destroy it completely, as if something is making sure he can never be identified. The team confirms his identity through DNA anyway. Police announce to the public that the terror that hunted Bernardino County for 17 years is finally finished, and the community gathers for a memorial to honor the victims. Then Alexis mentions one last detail. She found a small slip of paper in the killer's pocket. In it, Leslie wrote that if the police were reading this, then his plan had failed. But he made a promise anyway. He would come back and do the exact same thing 800 years from now. At the end, Joseph is asked about the demon Leslie was trying to awaken. He says only that Leslie believed it was a creature that would bring about the end of the world. Joseph does not care what it was. All that matters to him is that the killer is gone. And to this day, it remains the most terrifying case in the entire history of Bernardino County. So the moral of the story is if someone says they need 17 years, stolen organs, demon rituals, and perfect planetary alignment to finish a project, maybe they should have just gotten a normal hobby.